how challenging is it to stay fresh and to keep yourself engaged with like continuing to make content?
Yeah, it's a whole bunch of different factors, like how well I'm taking care of myself, and not partying as much and not and then, and there's a balance of working and playing, and you want to make sure you're not burning yourself out with different things. And it's definitely tricky just trying to keep it exciting for yourself and for everyone else, and just trying to come up with new stuff to do. And the whole internal, like, oh, am I doing this for because I want to do it, or just because I wanted the money, or etc. And you try to find that balance every time, and um, and then there's the whole algorithm, and like, what should I title this, and if I'm titling it this, like, are they gonna think that? And so you just all these things run through your mind as you're doing it. Yeah.
Hey everybody, welcome to another edition, another episode of the Videocraft show presented by Video Husky. I am your host, John Santiago, and in case you're new here, every week I interview content creators about their stories, their strategies, as well as their experiences of building an audience online through video. And viewers all over the world know my guest this week as the quote unquote king of awkward, but there's actually much more to Andrew Hales than that. Andrew is the creator behind the long running YouTube channel LAHWF. The name of his channel is an acronym for the phrase losing all hope was freedom, which many of you might know from the movie Fight Club. Andrew started his YouTube career in 2012, rising to internet fame thanks to his hidden camera experiments that went viral. He racked up millions of views by filming videos featuring himself and strangers in awkward social situations. In 2017, Andrew began filming the Chatting With series, which features conversations with a diverse lineup of guests. Past interviewees include fellow YouTube personalities such as Graham Stephan, an expert on narcissism, and even an ex convict, too. Now, aside from the pranks and the interviews, Andrews also tried his hand at scripted content, and he's even given vlogging a go. At the moment, Andrew is focusing most of his efforts on creating vlogs of his day-to-day life while he and his girlfriend vagabond around America for the next few months. And as a disclaimer for any of you who are watching the video version of the podcast, you will notice that Andrew is actually filmed, or he recorded from the driver's seat of his car, uh, because the place that he's currently staying at doesn't have any Wi-Fi. And so often when he needs to right now use the internet, he drives into the the closest town and uses Wi-Fi where he can get it. He's used a laundromat in the past, but for this particular episode, he was actually sitting in a Walmart parking lot and using the internet there. So thank you to Walmart. They do not sponsor this video. They do not sponsor this podcast, and they don't sponsor Andrew. Um, but maybe they should, because they're providing him with Wi-Fi that allows him to create content like the content that we made in this interview, and even I guess upload his content that he's making, his vlogs, onto YouTube. So I thought it was a good conversation. It was an interesting conversation for me just because I'm somebody who's actually watched Andrew's channel for a really long time. I think I started watching him. I'm pretty sure I started watching him way back when he started in 2012. Um, you know, like I think like any millennial man, especially you know men who are like my age now, we gravitated towards that kind of content when we were in our our early 20s, a lot of the social experiment stuff. And you know, if you're unfamiliar with it, we reference like quite a few YouTube channels and YouTubers who along with Andrew, for lack of better terms here, really like pioneered that niche. So we spent quite a bit of time having a chat conversation about those things in the first 20 minutes or so of the interview. But there's some really good stuff in here about his own journey as a content creator and where he's at currently. I think one of the most poignant moments of the conversation is when we talk about a subject that a lot of people don't normally like to discuss. But you'll notice when we get into the interview that he's he's willing to jump right into this and be very forthcoming about it. And it has to do with the subject of money and finances and income and whatnot. So we dive into that a little bit in the beginning, but we really get into the nitty gritty of it near the end of the conversation. So in case you want to fast forward to that or scrub forward to that, you can kind of search towards the end of the podcast to kind of hear his thoughts on on um on just how he's managing and handling his financial situation, which he was very forthcoming about right now is upside down at the moment. But he's a very confident dude in terms of like being able to dig himself out of it. And yeah, it was a great conversation. And so I don't want to waste your time any longer. Quick reminder, if you do enjoy this video, if you're watching it on YouTube, um, leave a comment and hit the like button too. Again, it helps us with the YouTube algorithm and puts this content in front of more content creators like yourself who are trying to learn from the past experiences and backgrounds of other creators who are a little bit further along in their journey. So, without further ado, here is my conversation with Andrew Hales. Andrew Hales, thank you for coming on the podcast, man. I
Yeah,
appreciate it.
of course. I'm sorry I was about an hour late, but I'm
it's
glad we could do
it's okay, man. Like honestly, I sometimes when stuff like this comes up when I do these podcasts, because I had another guest who was scheduled last week, uh, and they weren't able to show up.
this.
To be quite honest, I think like my 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 lesser self wants to think, oh god, this person's like blowing me off or whatever,
Yeah.
But in reality, then I try to keep myself in check and say, well, what if something bad happened to them? Like, should be a little bit more
Well,
compassionate
no,
too,
yeah. Well, I just my Airbnb doesn't have Wi-Fi right now, and so it was just kind of lucky that I got your text like as I was coming into town to shoot hoops, and I was like, oh yeah, shoot. So now we can so we can do this now. So
Oh man, that's great. So where are you? You are in Georgia. I've been watching your vlogs, and for anybody who is unfamiliar with your content, we'll get into that.
mm,
But um, you are you left Los Angeles, and now you are basically staying at an Airbnb for the time being with your girlfriend, correct? In Georgia.
yes, we found this Airbnb 2 months ago for $400 a month, and my lease was up in LA, so we wanted to just save money and come out here for a couple months. We're going to another Airbnb tomorrow for a couple months up in Virginia, and that was a little bit more of an upgrade. That has Wi-Fi at least. And yeah, we're just pinching pennies and just trying to, you know, rapidly get out of debt and pay off credit cards. And I mean, there's no better time to do it than like during the home stretch of getting out of COVID here.
Yeah, because there's not much going on in LA right
Yeah,
now,
nothing.
right? Is that part of, that's part of the reason why you
Yeah,
left?
LA sucks now. There's like nothing open. There's no bars or you can't go to the movies. Every place requires a mask. Yeah, most things are still closed, and yeah, it's definitely the most. They're probably the most protective next to New York City, maybe.
So what gave you the idea to do this? Like where like did you talk about this? I mean, I imagine obviously you talked about it with your
Yeah.
girlfriend, but did you talk about this with friends and bounce it off of them and think like, "Oh, maybe I should just, maybe we should make this move?"
Um. Well, I mean, we just yeah, we were paying 2 grand a month in LA, and we figured if we just vagabond it for a little bit and going on an adventure and live cheaply out in other states and Airbnbs for the next few months, we would save a lot of money. Um, but yeah, we definitely plan on returning to LA, but yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's the whole goal was just to save money.
Gotcha. I mean, at the same time too, it makes for some like interesting content, I
Yeah, yeah,
guess.
and blogging. I
Right?
mean, I was doing these chatting withs, these interviews for the last couple of years, and they started to dry up. I don't know. COVID canceled like the first like five I had going into 2020, and so I had to like start vlogging and experimenting, and people started liking those, and those started to get more views than the chattings, and so now I just kind of switched over to just vlogging on the channel.
So you sold all your equipment too, though, right? Like all the equipment that you had for the chatting with.
Yeah, I had a 70D and a Canon 5D and two SM7Bs. Is that what they are? And yeah, I just sold it all,
Mhm.
and that paid off one credit card.
So, so you have, but you kept one camera, right? Like just for the
Yeah,
vlogging, right? Because this is like a multi-cam setup that you were doing with chatting with.
yeah, I had three cameras. The wide angle was the G7X, and so I've been using that for the last couple months for vlogging. Very cheap setup. Yeah.
Gotcha. So Virginia is next on the docket. Like, is there any other places that you have in mind? Beyond that.
Um, yeah. Well, after that, we will probably go to my parents' cabin up in upstate New York and be there till at least the end of August, and that'll be cheap because I don't. I think we'll just do chores and stuff in exchange for rent. And after that, depending on my finances, we'll either go somewhere else or go back to LA or um but yeah, I don't know. There's definitely a possibility of just buying land cheaply in like Tennessee or something.
Dude, there was a guy. So there's a guy who I interviewed on my podcast. Great dude. He has a YouTube channel, obviously
Mm,
too. His name is Rob, and this dude basically bought like I think 50 acres of
mm,
land in Tennessee. He's very he's very smart in terms of like real estate investing, Airbnb rentals and stuff like that. And he was living in LA like you, but him and his wife made a decision to move out to Tennessee and then just rent out his their home in Los Angeles, which also has a tiny home in their
mm,
backyard that they built, which was also on Airbnb, renting that out. And then they had an apartment on the basement level of their home that they were also renting out as well.
mm,
And they used whatever money that they had to move to Tennessee. And he's got like this grand vision or grand plan of like trying to develop like a tiny house village
mm.
on that 50 acres of land just outside of where is that? I forget where it is. It's close to where Dollywood is, if you're familiar with that.
Mm-mm. It's in LA though, LA area.
No, it's in Tennessee. They moved to
Oh, and then
Tennessee.
so that's where the 50 acres. All right, got it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that that's kind of like what this Airbnb is doing. There, she has it's all probably about 20 acres, and she has one tiny house that we're in, and then 2 other mobile homes at their other Airbnbs, and so I guess yeah, she's kind of doing the same thing.
Gotcha.
And
What
you're in
about
San Fran, right?
I what's that?
You're in San Fran?
Yeah, I'm in the Bay Area actually, like super close to like I'm closer to Napa actually than to San Francisco.
Okay.
Like I'm about 20 minutes away from Napa. I mean, San Francisco is still kind of close, about an hour away, but
Hmm.
yeah, I've been here in California uh for the last year just because of the pandemic, honestly. Cuz before that I was not here in the Bay Area. I'm from here originally, but actually I was like, and this might be
Mm-hmm.
interesting for you. I was actually living in Southeast
Oh
Asia
wow.
in 2019.
Hmm.
Yeah. So like I got a visa to Bali and lived in Indonesia for like 6 months. And like the cost of living there is very affordable if you're making US dollars.
Huh. Yeah, I have a friend that went there just to get veneers. Uh, it's like
Yeah.
thousands of
I had dental work done in Thailand too.
yeah, Bali. Yeah, it seems like everyone's going to Bali these days for vacation and Instagram, and it's like this trend.
It's like the ultimate travel vloggers paradise, I'd
Yeah.
say, cuz like there's it's like everything there is just Instagrammable. I mean, there's just content upon content that you can make
Hmm.
when you go to Bali. That's why I was wondering, like, if you were gonna keep doing this, like you and your girlfriend just like bouncing around, what if you guys just became travel vloggers
Yeah, I
instead?
mean, I should probably do like a little summary essay on Swainsboro here in Georgia, and just keep doing little essays for everywhere we live for 2 months.
Yeah, because you had somebody. I watched one of your recent vlogs. A fan came to
Yeah,
they found where you were and came to your
yeah.
house.
Um, yeah, that was strange because it was such a coincidence because we were coming out on the dirt road, and just at the same time he was coming out on the dirt road looking for our house, and I got stuck in the mud, and um, he kind of came out and was like, "Do you need help?" And it was just it's crazy, and like no one drives on that road, like maybe once a day, you know. So it's a really weird coincidence. And then he turned around and got stuck in the road, and so then we kind of all just hung out, you know, his girlfriend and me and my girlfriend for like an hour waiting for his friend to pull us out. Just ridiculous.
He was a nice
Yeah, of
guy
course.
though. Like it wasn't like a I mean, have you ever had instances like that where like people might be a little bit creepy in terms of their interactions with you because they've been watching you for so long on YouTube?
No, not really. I mean, most people are just most fans are just shy, you know, and they just want to meet me, and it's cool. Like I don't really mind it. I mean, especially because it's like not my real house, so it's like it
Yeah.
wasn't that big of a deal. And no one's ever figured out where I live like in previous years, so it's fine.
Gotcha. Yeah, man. I guess I do want to go into just more of your background story. By the way, like I mentioned to you when I emailed you that I have been watching your channel for a super long time. Like honestly, I think I've been watching you on YouTube since you first started like in 2012. I think it was because
Oh, wow.
at that time, at that time, like there, you know how it was. You were part of this movement as well of like all these people doing social experiments. I feel like you were the guy who coined that term. It was like a softer way of just, describing them as like actual pranks,
Yeah,
you
it
know?
was like
And
it
so,
was a way of just like a less trashy way of saying prank.
yeah.
So
But you were like it's like I watched you and then it was funny to see, or was it just interesting to see you like I think you had inspired some other channels as well. Like I think you know them, the whatever guys,
mm,
Brian. You had done some stuff with him in the
mhm.
past. And then you
Yeah, it was
had
Big Boss.
um
and then that whole crew in Arizona, um, Juan and
What
Cody.
was it? Angry
Yeah,
Picnic
Angry
or
Picnic.
something?
That's Cody.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and Juan with that was epic. Simple pickup up in LA. Yeah, there's just a whole bunch of us. And that was, yeah, it was definitely like a kind of a new time for pranks, the 2012 to 2014 era, I'd say. And then it became like this whole genre, and it's like, wow.
Yeah, and then it started to go a bit sideways because then people were like paying paying actors to appear in their videos, and you don't really know whether or not it's like fake or real, right?
Yeah, yeah, and so that started to annoy me. I mean, it doesn't really annoy me now. Like I just like whatever. But yeah, that I used to be really anal about that. And that would piss me off because it's like it's hard to get real reactions, and it's so easy to, just pay someone to be like, oh, and just do your video in 20 minutes. Um, and then all these people think it's real, but it's like after I started doing the chattings and just venturing out into other formats, I started to care less and less. And it's like, whatever, entertainment's entertainment. And no one's ever cared in the first place, besides.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I do want to chat with you a little bit more about that in a little while. I just want to get into some discussions here just about your life before YouTube. Now, I know that did you own this Italian push cart or were you working for somebody? Cuz that I remember watching a video with you and Danny Duncan and you were telling him your
mhm.
story, and that's what, and I think you had done like videos on that on your channel where you explained like that's what you were doing
Yeah,
before YouTube. So was that your business or was that were you working for somebody else at the time?
it was a little franchise in like the smallest way, like $5,000 to buy into, and you would get their name, whatever, Little Jimmy's Italian Ice, and it was just an ad in Entrepreneur magazine I found, and so I just, I invested in that and started doing that at fairs for a few months, and it was like decent. It was like I would get like $1,000 per event that I would do, but um, nothing. Yeah, but then YouTube blew up, and that was a lot more efficient and profitable. So I think a year later I just sold the push cart and only did YouTube.
So were you somebody that was always kind of you had this like entrepreneurial drive or like interest in entrepreneurship
Yeah,
like at a very early age?
yeah, I think so. I mean, every boss I ever had, like working in fast food or being a server, I was always a really bad worker, and I just I knew I needed to figure out some kind of business I could do for myself. So I did a lot of door to door stuff where you can like just be on your own, and that was working out okay. But yeah, I mean, I read a lot of business books, and I just always liked doing my own thing.
Was there anybody in your life that that you knew personally that who you looked up to that was kind of doing their own thing and kind of gave you that inspiration to think, "Oh, maybe I could do this myself?"
Yeah, actually, when you texted me, I was listening to Tools of Titans, which is kind of like a greatest hits of Tim Ferriss's books and all his podcasts. And yeah, I read 4 Hour Work Week when I was like 20, and that was a huge turning point and made me feel like I could really pursue entrepreneurship and passive income and all that online, etc. So,
Yeah, that
you read 4 Hour Work?
I can say too. Yeah, that book definitely had a massive influence on my life as well. In fact, I got it right here on my like stack of
Yeah,
books that I have. You know, just for like
yeah.
window dressing, I guess
I've
you could
probably read
say.
it like 8 times now in my life. I love it.
Do you find yourself coming away with something new each time you read
Yeah,
it?
because I don't know, I kind of daydream a lot when I read, but yeah, I just feel like I can't read it enough, and I always, if anything, it just pumps me up and gives me confidence to um, go go get bread. So yeah,
Yeah, man, that's no, it's interesting that you mentioned that because I think 4 Hour Work Week for me as a book, that that's kind of influenced me to take that path, like as I mentioned to you earlier, of like living in Southeast Asia and living in Asia for most of 2019. Before that also too, I was living in different parts of the world in years prior, kind of doing the digital nomad
mm,
thing. I probably would still be doing that actually if it weren't for COVID. Yeah. No, it's just changed. I mean, you know, like your life has changed. Like, would you have imagined you be sitting
yeah,
in a car doing a podcast interview with me
no.
in Georgia?
It's yeah, it's I don't know, it's adventurous, but and it's fun roughing it, but I definitely miss, normal life and all that. Um, but I don't know. I don't mind a little mix up and shake up. What am I trying to say? I don't like when get things get shaken up a bit. Let's shake things up a bit. Yeah, you know. It's
Yeah.
it was nice, changing all the minutia, and it was kind of exciting in a way, but also tragic.
Yeah. Hey, you know, I want to ask you, since you brought up Tim Ferriss, you actually got to meet Tim Ferriss and you did a video with him, which, dude, I totally forgot about
Yeah.
this because my friend, I, by the way, Andrew, like one of my friends, we both have been watching your videos for the longest time. And so he reminded me, we were texting each other like this past week and he reminded me that you had did a video with Tim Ferriss in Dolores Park in San Francisco when he was still living in the Bay Area, where you guys just you went up and like randomly hugged
Yeah,
people. How did you end up meeting him in the first
man.
place?
Um, well, let's see. I was working with this guy for a few months who was Simple Pickups old manager, and he just had his connect, and he's like, "Hey, I know Tim Ferriss's email," and so he emailed him and said we could do a prank or something, and I was like, "All right." So we drove to San Fran and did that. And yeah, it was super eerie because I was like, he was like my hero, and it was just, I was super nervous the whole time, but we did it, and for some reason I threw that on the the vlog channel because I didn't think it was good enough, and I think, yeah, 2014, I was so like, oh, every video needs to be amazing, and I uploaded like once a month, and had this crazy perfection complex, and but yeah, nowadays I would totally throw that on the main channel. Yeah, hugging people three, I think, and then featuring Tim Ferriss. I think that you'll find it if you type that in. Yeah.
You know, he's such a I mean, he's a fascinating dude and he's such a master
Mm.
marketer too. Like I remember when he did a vlog with the Simple Pickup guys with Kong, Jesse, and Jason. By the way, random note, I actually know
Oh yeah.
Kong. I've met him before. We've hung out a couple times because I used to live in Las Vegas and we tried to do some sort of collaboration with the company that I was working for at the
Hmm.
time.
Yeah, they're
With them.
millionaires.
Yeah.
They hit struck
I've
oil.
been to I have been to I've been to well, I don't know if Kong still lives there, but I had gone to Kong's apartment in
Sunset, yeah,
Hollywood.
Sunset Boulevard.
Y-
Yeah.
Yeah, he was a nice dude. He invited me there one time and was like, "Hey, you want to you know, he told me he's like, if you're ever in LA, like hit text me or something, we could grab lunch or grab coffee or
Yeah.
whatever." And he had invited me to he said, "Well, why don't you meet me up at my apartment?" So I drove to his
Mhm.
apartment. I didn't say this to him at the time, but I just like remember being in awe. I'm like, okay, this is what YouTube money can get you, I
Well, no, I
guess.
mean, that was, I think it was mostly they had, like, a YouTube Academy going on, and that was, like, the bulk of
Yes.
their riches. Because I remember seeing one of his commercials on Facebook, I was like, "Whoa, this is amazing, they're gonna make so much from this." 'Cause it's, they charge a
Yeah,
shit ton, I think, like, over time, whatever.
exactly. Yeah, they were they were selling online
Yeah,
courses. And now I see like that's kind of just the thing in general with so many
Graham
content
Stephan does
creators or
that. I
people
know
just
I have, like, 5 YouTube friends that do that, yeah.
would you ever do an online course? What
Pretty
would you teach
tempting.
if you
Yeah, I don't
did?
even know what I would teach. I don't know, I just feel like that would be I'd feel so out of place doing that because uh because my channel's been so volatile anyway, so I'm not really an authority on it. Gosh, so
But
maybe
yeah,
for
no, like I
girls, I
was
feel like I'm good at that now that I'm older, but yeah, and dating maybe, dating tips, but I don't know.
so essentially like the same kind of product that Simple Pickup was making
Oh,
back
yeah,
in the
yeah, that
day.
was before their YouTube Academy, they had Project Go. Yeah,
Yes, that's right. Yes,
yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
Um, no, that's what I was, going back to like Tim Ferriss here. Like he's very, it's not like I don't think he's doing it in a way where he doesn't authentically want to meet you or other people as, you know, as people, but at the same time, like I was thinking to myself, why would Tim Ferriss collaborate with Andrew around 2014? And I noticed the time that your video went up was about a month or so after he had launched his
Oh,
podcast. So probably there might have been my thinking,
yeah,
I
of
don't know, you'd have to
course,
ask
yeah.
Tim this, but it probably was like a way to generate some like brand awareness and get some more exposure in front of people because he was launching this new
Yeah,
thing.
I mean, it was really nice of him to just meet up with us for a couple hours. He even did, like, a little interview I have somewhere, I think, where I only put it out on my blog at the time. It's just a phone interview. I just put my phone on record. We did that after the prank. Um, I could probably recycle that for a chatting with if I go dig that up. But yeah, he was. I mean, anything you do, is good for marketing. Like what I'm doing now. It's like so
Yeah.
you just help other people, help you, and all that.
Yeah, man. Well, I appreciate it. I mean, again, especially being somebody who has watched you for many years. I was thinking about this because I like have you ever watched The Truman
Hmm.
Show?
Yeah, I love that movie.
I kind of feel like you're a living version of that
Yeah,
show.
but like aware and
Like,
volunteers to do it. That's
yeah. Like,
kind of how blog.
is that something's ever crossed your mind?
Yeah, of course. Like that's vlogging is pretty much just sharing your life, your home videos with the world, and so it's definitely it feels like that sometimes. Like every thought and move and choice you make is broadcast, and then everyone comments on it, and just kind of like your life is the story, and your success of your channel is the story, and so it can be a little overwhelming sometimes if you get too in your
Yeah,
head about it.
how do you deal with that in terms of just people commenting on aspects of your day-to-day life, especially with these vlogs now that you're doing?
Well, yeah, the comments I'll read about I'll read like the first hour or so on a new video, and then I'll just never look at it again because then it's like later on if that video finds one of those pockets of YouTube where it keeps getting views, then all these outsiders just say the worst, meanest things about you, and then so I just
Mm.
you definitely have to control yourself and not always read comments and keep that and limit that. But,
What are some of the worst things that people have said to you on your comments
oh, just that I'm like
section?
I'm kind of spacey and I look like I'm always on drugs and talk like an idiot and Yeah, well, especially like on the chattings, if it begins with like this interviewer is, so dumb or whatever, then if a sentence begins with this interviewer, I like already know it's going to be terrible. Um, I'm trying to think here.
I'm looking forward to that once, you know, hope if my we're obviously like still in the promotional stages of this podcast, but I'm like mentally like preparing myself for people to just criticize the way that I interview and talk to people.
Yeah, you definitely have to have thick skin, you just gotta let it. And the worst thing you can do is respond in any way. Don't ever like respond or give them the time of day. You just have to try to, like, as soon as you respond, they win. Even if it's the most like
Mm-hmm.
witty comeback of all time or whatever. You just gotta. Oh yeah, and my favorite option is just hiding. You can like hide comments on you. Yeah, the
Oh, okay.
best.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't. I think it shows on their end that they posted it, but it doesn't show that you like actually hit it, and so they just have no idea. So
Yeah. Um Gosh, I just had something that I was gonna ask you, and now like totally lost my train of thought here.
yeah, I've been there.
I, yeah, no. When you've done these chatting wids, like, what's your preparation for it? I'm curious as somebody who's doing a podcast now myself. Like, I'm always super interested in how other podcasters or interviewers are going about their preparation process.
Um. Well, yeah, the night before, I'll just totally binge for like 3 or 4 hours on that whatever the topic is. Like if it was, the let's see, just the Sasquatch witness, I would just watch a million different videos on YouTube about that, and just whatever question I had, I would write that down in my notes, and as long as I had all my notes, then I would just kind of wing it from there. Um, and I never had mine live. Is this live now?
No, it's not live.
Oh, okay.
This is taped.
Because I
Yeah.
would, yeah, I never, because I say so many ums and say so many dumb things that I edit out, and um, yeah, and then you just edit it correctly and make it good.
Have there ever been times where you've had to like cut out whole
Oh
sections
yeah.
of an interview that you look back and you're like, and what was the reason behind that? Was it because of what you said or you asked, or was it something that the interviewee said?
A little bit of both. It's almost always something I said, like I just said something dumb or something, or we just kind of started rambling off topic and talking about something completely different and boring that I felt like the audience wouldn't care about at all, and I just take that whole chunk out. Um, uh, but no, yeah, I would usually aim for an hour of filming, and then I'd chop it down to like 15, 20 minutes. So I would leave out a lot. 'Cause a lot of it would also just be like getting them comfortable and building rapport, and then getting into the nitty gritty.
Yeah, what do you do in that regard? Because like we just
Hey,
basically
just
we just I just fired up the
yeah, no,
recording
I mean,
here, like within
yeah,
a few
no. As soon as they
seconds.
walked in, I'd be
You
like, "Yeah, have a seat here. All right, recording, great." And we would just get into it, and I would ask all the boring stuff. So, where you from? It was just like a first date, pretty much, and then
Yeah, that's
yeah, and
yes.
then just eventually, when we're both comfortable, you would edit, all the fluff out and try to make it interesting.
Yeah. I definitely can relate to the first date metaphor or analogy that you described there, because like there's definitely like this anxious anticipation before the podcast, before you start recording. I'm like collecting all my notes and everything, and making sure that I have the questions that I want to ask down. I sometimes I do jot down like questions, but like even like now, like honestly, I'm not even really looking at my notes too
Yeah, no, it's
much.
tricky. Yeah,
But
it's like interviewing and podcasting is trickier than it looks. People don't realize how much focus it takes, and the art of conversation
yeah.
and all that.
Yeah, it is similar in a sense to it is very similar to a first date, but what I've found at least early on in doing this podcast, is that what's different about that experience relative to this experience that we're having right now of me trying to interview you for this podcast is that there's like this added like self-awareness that I'm also going to be watched and judged by like everybody who listens to this. Whereas like if I'm on a date with somebody, like a first date or just a date in general, it's my only audience is that person who I'm talking
Right.
to.
Yeah. So it does add a whole different dynamic of pressure when you're doing it. So it's like a first day on and then in front of people. Actually, that would be a great show. Or I guess it already is a show, Blind Date or whatever.
There's a show that
Or
does that?
yeah, it was like 20 years ago though. Yeah.
Oh,
I mean,
okay. I thought
there's
there was
tons
like
of
a
dating
YouTube
shows.
channel that
Yeah.
was doing that.
No.
Yeah.
But yeah, that well, no, that would be a good it would just be creepy though if you didn't tell the girl you were filming and then you just filmed the whole date. Other, but that would be awesome content to watch that. But you couldn't, you
It,
really, that wouldn't, I wouldn't advise anyone to do that. Yeah.
yeah, no, I actually, it's funny that you mentioned that because the same friend of mine who who was also a fan of yours, I joked around with him at one point. I'm like, why don't you, 'cause he's on the dating apps, he's
Yeah.
single
Yeah.
and he's, matching with people. Sometimes he actually just tries to slide straight into the DMs on
Yeah.
Instagram
I
without
think
them.
everyone does that.
Uh,
Yeah. Sometimes some
yeah,
girls you have to do that because they just, that's how they filter you or whatever.
exactly. But I told him, I said, why don't you just start a podcast where you know, you just record your first dates with these women. I mean, there's like tons of prospects on the dating apps, I think if you just ask them, the weird thing would be is like if you ask them
If you ask
to
beforehand, then that's totally fine, but otherwise, it's like an hour in, and you're like and you're both hitting it off, and then you drop that bomb on her, like, "Oh, by the way, I've been recording this whole" then that would be so cringy for her, and
it's a social experiment,
no,
like
that's too much. Like, little, 1-minute interactions with pranks is fine, but not a whole, like, date, you know? Uh,
Yeah, no, and I think it would be the tough part would be like if you're asking them to come on, like, hey, I do this podcast where I, you know, I record my first dates with women. Like there's always that feeling of like, well, are you actually getting like the authentic version of them
right.
that they would be on like when you're on a date, on an actual date, or are they like, hamming it up and performing for the content,
Yeah, I mean, if you kinda just tell them up front, like now, it could be like I could do that and just be like, "Yeah, I have a girlfriend. I wouldn't really trying to date you, but I can give you $100 and we can make it look like it or whatever." That could be a good show. I don't know.
It could just be a good show where you're on the apps and you're actually like interviewing them about the experience of dating and why they're on the
Yeah, I mean,
dating
you could
apps
just
too.
do
Like I think some
a
women would
man
be
on the
down.
street interview kind of thing about that. Yeah.
Yeah. So, anyways, we're going
Yeah,
all over the
yeah,
place
yeah.
here. It's my job. It's my job as an interviewer. Try to keep it in different. Keep it on task, I guess. I don't know. I have a tendency to jump around
Same.
from things to things depending on where my curiosity
Mm.
is. But I do want to ask you one other thing about Tim Ferriss. Was there anything that he said to you when you met him in person that really stuck out and just, you know, left a real good impression on you even today?
Hmm. Let me think. He, I wouldn't say anything specific, but just his overall presence was really nice and down to earth, and he didn't seem like a dick at all or anything like that. Um, I don't know. Yeah, he seemed very like as intense as he can be sometimes in his books. He seemed very lighthearted and just kind of, he didn't really have a care in the world, you know.
It'd be interesting if you could meet him again today because it seems like he's gone through this whole brand new journey since then,
Yeah, I
right?
mean,
With
we're
like a
all
lot of the research that he's doing in psychedelics and
yeah,
stuff.
well, he was actually, like, on it he said he was gonna I remember he said he was about to do some psilocybin whatever trip that like, that weekend, after, um, filming, and so, yeah, it was kinda around that time, I think, and I know he's, like he's been yeah, he's funded a lot of research into that for mental health and everything.
Yeah. In terms of the the other YouTuber creators that you kind of, I guess your class, for lack of better terms, that you came up with, like guys that you mentioned, like Big Dawes, Simple Pickup. Do you still keep in contact with those guys at all? Chat with them here and there,
Yeah,
or
yeah, we all stay in touch, I saw one about 6 months ago, like, I just had a layover in Arizona, and we got a beer, and, let's see, Big Dawson actually, like, surprised me and or I got my like, a new cell phone number, and I texted everyone my new number, and he's like, "Andrew." I hadn't seen him, like, in a year, and he was in Miami with everyone filming with his, like, crew, and he flew me out for free and, like, surprised Luke, who was an old filmer of mine who films for him now, and,
mm-hmm.
so that yeah, and then I flew out there for a couple days and saw everyone, and so that was fun. That was in, like, late January, and yeah, he
would you,
still does pranks with, Shapiro and everyone else, and crazy. He's just 5 years later after meeting him, he's still doing the pranks.
he still has a passion for it, I guess you could say, or he's still interested in making that kind of content.
Yeah, I mean, he was trying something new. He was trying to make a music video with strangers, and so that's up now. That came out like a couple weeks ago, 2 weeks or a month ago, and so yeah, he's definitely. I think he's getting a little tired of the pranks, but no, yeah, he's starting to do other stuff like giveaways and whatnot.
Yeah, for you, in terms of just your direction with your channel, and you kind of joked earlier that it's been a bit volatile in terms of where it goes and in direction and whatnot. Like you had this first stage, I guess, with the pranks and social experiments.
Hmm.
And then I know at one point you were doing like skits too. You've dabbled in that, and then you have like the chatting with phase, and
Hmm.
now lately you've been doing a lot of the vlogs and whatnot. Like how challenging is it to stay fresh and to keep yourself engaged with like continuing to make content?
Yeah, it's a whole bunch of different factors, like how well I'm taking care of myself, and not partying as much and then, and there's a balance of working and playing, and you want to make sure you're not burning yourself out with different things. And it's definitely tricky just trying to keep it exciting for yourself and for everyone else, and just trying to come up with new stuff to do. And the whole internal, like, oh, am I doing this for because I want to do it, or just because I wanted the money, or etc. And you try to find that balance every time, and um, and then there's the whole algorithm, and like how like, what should I title this, and if I'm titling it this, like, are they gonna think that? And so you just all these things run through your mind as you're doing it. Yeah, but I don't know.
Th-
I'll figure out. I think for now, I'm just gonna try to upload one good video a week, and just have it, have it be a prank or vlog or whatever. Just focus on quality over quantity for now.
Yeah, I feel like at this point, especially like for me being somebody who has watched your channel for a long time, like the reason I stick around is because of you.
Oh,
Your personality. Like, I'm not trying to butter you up here or anything, but
yeah.
genuinely, like, I just find you to be like a hilarious dude. Like, it's like whether you're doing chatting wids or you're doing the vlogs now with your girlfriend, or getting into trouble with that dude Melvin, who I'd love to ask you about in a
Yeah, yeah.
moment. Um, but that's really like what you know has kept me sticking around, and I imagine that's what kept like a lot of people who continue to watch your videos is just your personality. Like it's you're, for lack of better terms, you're a unique guy.
Yeah, I mean, that's thanks. I try to yeah, I don't know, I try to keep it because yeah, when people say that and it's like great, like um my personality, but then it gets in your head and I don't want to get all like egotistical because of it and you don't want to just get too like influencer-ish and too and you kind of worry about what the long-term implications are if you I don't know. It just feels a little culty, when people just follow you for you instead of, some like entertainment, something that's like a project that you did, instead of so it's weird. You don't it's and even though it's a YouTube is like hanging out and stuff, you still want to not compromise your artistic integrity, if you will, and you still want it to be creative and not you know, just not like some kind of run of the mill influencer. I don't know.
Yeah. No, I know what you're saying, man. It's
Yeah.
like trying to figure out the perfect balance between creating something that you're proud of, but then at the same time creating something that other people will watch,
Yeah.
right? Like cuz I feel like constantly, at least when I've talked to other creators for this podcast, that is where there's a lot of tension, there's a lot of struggle there with that, right? Is like cuz something that you might want to make for yourself, it may not have like widespread appeal, whereas you could make something that you could care less about, but it has like it gets like 2 million views, right?
Yeah. Um, yeah, and then at the same time, you just try to remember it's it's better than having a real job and blah blah blah. Just give the audience what they want and don't worry about you. And I don't know. So you just try to balance all those things.
Yeah, there was a I know you were experimenting with like your titles with these vlogs in the beginning. What was it? You're
Oh
like
yeah.
millennial,
Credit.
one of the titles.
Yeah, no,
You
well, because I was looking at my videos and the analytics and this, um, like the stock trading ones all get like $10 CPM, and I was like, what is going on here? And
Mhm.
so I figured if I just started vlogging and make titling the series "Credit Card," um, that future millionaire day trader, that it would jack up his CPM. After a couple of weeks, it didn't really do anything. So I think that YouTube's just smarter than that, or something. Like maybe like the AI can detect whether you're actually talking about credit card stock trading or whatever in the video, and so you can't
Yeah.
just like title any video of that. I don't know. Do you know anything
But
about
the
that?
funny thing was like when I was yeah, I think, well, from a marketing standpoint, it's that's why you have guys like a Graham Stephan who do very well because their CPMs are just higher. Because if you think about it logically, right, if they're making content about making money or stock trading or whatever, those are industries where a lot of money is exchanged overall. So obviously advertisers are willing to pay a higher premium for that, because if you're interested in real estate or whatever, for example, more than likely you've got a lot of money to spend.
Yeah.
right? Like if you're thinking about buying a house, then that, you know, advertising in front of or putting your ads in videos where um someone is talking about real estate, they're able to reach that kind of audience who has, I guess, bigger pockets
Mm.
in terms of spending. I don't know if what I said just made much
No,
sense,
no, yeah, of
but
course. There's just more money in finance and real estate. Um,
exactly. Yeah, I mean it's like again, the guy I mentioned earlier, Rob, who's guest number 6 on this podcast. He just quit his job. He was working in advertising for most of his career as like a copywriter. His wife was a teacher. Um, but even with the amount, like the subscribers that he's got fewer subscribers than you. He's at like 70,000, I think, at the last I checked.
hmm,
It's just that his content is about like how to run a short-term rental business through Airbnb. So you're attracting all these like people who are interested in making money through short-term rentals, and obviously like you need to have a healthy amount of money to your name in order to get involved in that game.
hmm,
But he was just getting like, I saw his video. I'll send it to you. You might be interested in it. But he did like a breakdown of like how he's um, earning a lot of his money these days, and he gets so much inbound from the number of people asking him for help as a consultant, because he started a consulting business on the side where he would, you know, speak with people for an hour
mhm,
and they'd pay him, I don't know what his fee is, whatever amount. And he's like fully booked up every month
hmm.
now. And I think he was like making, in that video, he said he was making like, high, I mean, close to like $200,000 or like $150,000 a month from the consulting
Wow.
alone. And he's also owns, again, he owns real estate too, these Airbnb rentals, which are cash flowing for him. So he's got that as income too. And he's just kind of, again, he's doing it with the consulting alone from the leads that he's getting from YouTube with like 70,000 subscribers. I mean,
Hmm.
that's pretty healthy.
Yeah.
Now, you know why I wanted to bring up that, the title thing, because when I was watching that, I laughed because I knew what you were
Yeah.
doing.
I was
like
like,
I
I
was
knew
like,
like at least 10% of the people watching would know exactly what I'm doing, especially Graham, who's kind of introduced me to it.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah,
Credit card debt
I because
millionaire.
yeah,
So ridiculous.
it's it was funny because I started laughing when I saw. I was like, I know what Andrew Hales is doing here. He's trying to see if he could like get credit card companies to pay higher CPMs for his video to run like the pre-roll on his videos or mid-roll or whatever. But the
Yeah.
funny thing is, I was gonna ask you, and you ended up doing a couple videos later where you scrapped that because you're like, as you mentioned, it didn't really affect your CPMs. But from my end as a viewer, I started seeing ads for credit card
Did
companies
you?
on your
Oh my God.
video. Yeah, I
Maybe I
did.
didn't wait long enough. Shit.
You could try again.
Man, now I want to try again. Hell. Well, there's this prank I was
No,
gonna do just asking people for their credit card, so I can try that. Hey, can I have your credit what's in your wallet? Can I have your credit card? What kind of credit card do you have or whatever? Yeah. Gosh.
that'd be hilarious. You could, yeah, do the, what's in your wallet. That's the
Yeah.
Capital One catchphrase, and then you could send it to them, and maybe they, I don't know,
Straight
maybe
into
they
the
would
mic.
say,
Do
oh,
you have
well,
a
maybe.
Visa? Do you have American Express? Like, whatever. I don't know. Yeah, maybe I just didn't wait long enough. I It's kind of a mystery, but I just after looking at it after 2 weeks, it just didn't seem to make a difference. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. From Okay, so here's the marketer and me like speaking about, like, giving you my perspective on
Yeah,
it now is like, if I were working for those companies and then found out that your
right.
videos
They would, like, ban me.
were my ads were, I wouldn't ban you. I'd be like kind of annoyed because I'm like, I these people aren't
Right.
interested in. Look at the content that he's making. He's like he's shaving his head bald.
Yeah.
Like this has nothing to do with finance or whatnot.
Right. Well, like I like eventually it would catch up to me and like, whatever the credit. I'm sure like when they pay for like the credit card company pays for an ad, they could probably like say accept Andrew Hales, and like just not and
Yes.
not run the ads on mine, and word would get around fast, etc. and whatever. So,
Yeah. Cuz that's always a thing for brands and companies when
hmm
they're spending this money. Obviously, like you get paid via AdSense from it, but they're always, they're not going to spend money unless they feel or they have a sense that they're going to get a certain return on it in the future, right? Like they
yeah.
might spend $1 million on a campaign, but it's like we're going to make 10 million on it, right?
hmm
Like our return on ad spend is going to be bigger. And I don't know if you're doing
Wait,
again
so
your vlogs.
you did start seeing like credit card. Um,
I did.
Man, maybe I can come up with another title series. Right? No, no. Maybe I can like the first. What I've also thought about doing is doing like a quick like 1 minute in the beginning really talking about credit cards, and then the rest of the video is a prank that my my audience loves. So like it would be like a word of mouth, like, oh no, that one top 10 credit card video is a prank, and so it would get a lot of views, but it would also have the high CPM. So that's one thing I've thought of trying.
I don't know, maybe.
I don't know.
Maybe. Again, it just depends on like the brands or like the companies if they ultimately find, hey, wait, our ad spend is going towards like these pranks. Is that something we want to be associated with? Then they would probably, if yes, if they're cool with it, if they're like a little bit forward thinking in their advertising and marketing strategy, then yes, probably they'd be down, but
Mm.
who knows? I don't know. I think they would still rather be spending on Graham's channel than on yours.
Like, yeah, I actually need to just make a real video about advice on financing or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah.
I guess
Is that
I need to
something
do.
you've ever thought about doing? Like, just have you ever thought about like, I mean, you always hear people say you have to find your niche, you have to have a niche or whatever. And like, I mean, your niche initially was like these pranking social experiment type videos, but
Mhm.
have you ever thought about like taking the direction of the channel into a specific area that you're either interested in learning about and talking about?
I've thought about like a little series I would do called Future Millionaire, and it would be me trying to uh just venturing into different industries. Like one would be titled How to Make a Hit Pop Song. It would be all about the music industry. And then another one would be how to, you know, how to win on the stock market, and that would be all about day trading, etc. And it would be kind of like a day in the life with all the industries. And then I would just like interview experts and everything else, and I would just make them all little documentaries.
Mm,
But no, I mean, it's mostly just been miscellaneous for the last year, year and a half. But yeah, it was like it
yeah.
kind of went pranks, then the chattings for a couple of years, and then now it's just kind of miscellaneous vlogs. Just whatever gets views.
Of
Yeah.
all those kinds of content, of all those kinds of contents that you've created, what would you say is your like your favorite personally in terms of just creating it yourself?
That's tough because I was just, when I was making the pranks, that was my favorite at the time, and then when I was doing the chattings, that was my favorite. You just kind of change as a person as you get older, and um, for now, I'm enjoying the vlogs. It's just you kind of go with your gut and you follow your heart, as cheesy as that sounds. And you just, depending on your mood and your age and where you at in your life, you just And also you just kind of do whatever you can to get views. Like if there was some, if I had like a really good chatting like with a serial killer, then I would do it now, you know. And but I don't. It's not that easy to get an interview with a serial killer. So yeah,
Do you ever go back and look at some of your old videos and just reflect on who you were as a person at that time in your life and what was going through your
yeah,
mind
of
when you
course.
decided
I
to make
mean,
those
it's
videos?
definitely cringy to watch. It's definitely cringy to watch a lot of my old pranks where I was like, just like crossing the line and just being an asshole. Um, yeah, I made two videos last year reacting to my old videos that, you know, it kind of sheds light on my thoughts on a lot of my old videos.
That's right.
Yeah.
I did. I actually, yeah, I did remember watching that. We'll include a link to that. I don't know if I. That's something I like to ask people on this show. Um, is just what they what they would think about themselves back then. Now that they're a little bit older, a little bit wiser. Because isn't it wild to you that you've basically been doing YouTube for almost a decade now?
Yeah, it'll be 10 years next March, about a year from now.
What do you think you would have been doing if this hadn't worked out?
Well, I honestly, when I was like 19, I was actually planning on I worked at McDonald's for a summer and I was planning on just working my way up in McDonald's and being a general manager and then buying out more McDonald's and franchising that. And then I quit that and started doing the Italian Ice, and I was gonna just buy a bunch of those and eventually try to automate that. And then um yeah, I wasn't even, but yeah, YouTube was always like a dream. You know, I would post like once every few months if I had the time. But I finally seriously started doing it around March in 2012, and luckily that took off, and I've just been doing that for 8 years now.
Was when you got into YouTube in the beginning, like did you have any idea of what you could potentially earn and make from it?
No, I just, well, no, I heard, I was friends with a friend of a friend who knew this channel called Kid History. Um, and I just heard something like they made like 3 grand or something in a month from their AdSense. I was like, oh wow, so it is like a real, people are making a living from it. And then like a year later, so yeah, then I started to really pursue YouTube, and then yeah.
But were you always somebody that was like very creative, would you say? Like cuz I know your sister too, your older sister Jacqueline is an actress. Like are you two the only like creative types in the Hales household?
We are the two blondes of the family. We are the two, yeah, we're probably the two most creative, maybe, out of the all our siblings. But um, I mean, anyone can be creative. It's just, um, yeah, I don't know. That's hard to say because, yeah, I don't know how to answer that. Yeah, I guess I'm creative. Yeah, I mean, I've always been more right brained, I guess, my whole life. I'm better at English and art than math and science, if that's what
Like were
you
you
mean.
doing art and stuff when you were a kid? Like were you
Yeah,
drawing, were you writing or
I was like,
experimenting
even,
with videos?
yeah, before YouTube, I was always playing with the video camera and trying to make skate videos and jackass videos. And but I think a lot of kids in America in the 2000s were doing that as well. So
Yeah, I kind of feel like that's what spawned the whole pranking niche was like growing up because we're like the same age. I think I'm a couple of years older than you, but
okay.
we're both like I guess elder millennials here, right? But I'm like you. I grew up watching Jackass on
Yeah,
MTV
Jackass
and
is like every
seeing Johnny Knoxville.
yeah, I don't know one millennial male that doesn't like Jackass. It's just we all grew up watching that. Yeah.
Just watching Jackass and watching professional wrestling in the like the
Yeah,
late 1990s and
yeah,
early 2000s for
I
me.
was even into that for a little bit, like the Undertaker and everything.
Yeah, Stone Cold Steve Austin,
Hmm.
The Rock, especially now looking at where The Rock has gone. It's in the 20 years since. He's not just the most electrifying man in sports entertainment, he's the most electrifying man in entertainment, period.
Yeah, I think he's like the new Arnold Schwarzenegger, just killing it at the box
Yeah,
office.
definitely, man. So I do also want to ask you about we kind of touched on this a little bit in terms of when we were kind of joking about the idea of doing a dating podcast where you record your first dates with people, but
Hmm.
um I'm kind of curious about what that conversation was like with your current girlfriend Carly when you tell her what you do.
Um,
How does that go?
she didn't mind. I like our first date. We just got drinks. I met her on Hinge actually, and I just told her I'd been making videos for YouTube for the last 7 or 8 years, and she was like, "Oh, that's cool. You get money from that?" And everyone asks the same things. Like, "Oh, yeah, how do you make money from that?" And so, and yeah, she didn't really mind. Like, she just she kind of she doesn't really she's kind of like Casey Neistat's wife. Like, she doesn't really care. I don't know. She just doesn't. She has her own life. And I like how she's not like oh, what did you upload today or whatever. Like she just lets me do my thing and I let her do her thing, and so it's nice.
Did you have trouble meeting women who were like that before you met Carly? So I guess where I'm trying to get at here is like I wonder if it's difficult with you, having close to 3 million subscribers on YouTube, and if women are just interested in the fact that he's got like a huge following, and I want to like utilize that to my advantage.
Yeah, yeah. There's definitely yeah, especially in LA. There's definitely a lot of girls that would take advantage of that and like, oh, let me take a selfie with you, like, oh, as we're on the date and etc. Um, but and that was I guess that would be about like half of the girls, and the other half just wouldn't care at all and would be cool and down to earth about it. But
Yeah,
yeah, I mean everyone's different.
that's cool. I mean, at least she seems like she's very grounded and not. It would be better, I think, to have a partner who doesn't care about
Yeah,
who doesn't care about like how many views you get. They obviously just care about you as a person, as a human being first and foremost.
yeah, definitely. She's definitely proven to not be a gold digger because I'm kind of like the poorest I've ever been right now. So, so it works.
So what was it? I was gonna ask you too, like what was your decision, to start having her be in the videos? Like, was that I imagine that's like a conversation that you guys had, and because originally she wasn't. You had mentioned that you had a girlfriend, which obviously piqued the curiosity of your audience, but it wasn't really until like this you guys started you moved to Georgia and started vlogging that she really started to be featured
Yeah.
in the videos.
Um, well, yeah, I didn't really commit to just only vlogs until around the beginning of the year, and so that was one part of it. And I figured might as well introduce her now since I'm gonna just try to do vlogs from now on. Because yeah, for the second half of 2020, I was kind of like, oh, what am I doing here? Chatting with or vlogs or what am I doing here? And yeah, it can definitely get like really sticky really fast if you introduce someone into the vlogs and then they're not in the vlogs and then everyone's like, where did they go or whatever, and you don't want to you definitely want to ease them into it. And she's already pretty camera shy as it is, so I don't want to pressure that onto her like just yet or anything. But yeah, she's pretty cool about it.
No, I saw your well, at the time it's your most latest video where you try to prank April Fool's joke your mom.
Yeah,
And I was laughing with both of you on the phone, and I was laughing because you gave up like after a minute. Like you you couldn't keep up the joke for more than a minute with both your dad
yeah.
and your
I
mom.
felt bad. I get it's emotionally draining to. You just don't want to do that to people. I don't know, but I figured it was a good.
Yeah, and your mom was like super happy about it though. She sounded ecstatic that she might have a
Yeah,
grandchild.
uh, yeah. My mom's. Yeah, my parents would be thrilled if I had a kid. I don't know. Yeah.
So, I mean, few more things I want to touch base with you on, but while we as we start to wrap things up
Hmm.
here, um, in terms of being on YouTube for, as again as I mentioned earlier, for close to a decade now, um, what ways or how have you what ways have you learned to cope with this strange phenomenon that is internet fame?
Um. Well, I think it's important to you look at PewDiePie and just any famous YouTuber influencer, and if you just ask anyone on the street if they know who they are, they'll probably say no, and that kind of just keeps things in perspective for me. Like you're not famous, you're just like a micro celebrity, and it's all very niche. Um, and so yeah, and if you do the math and everything, you're not even like 0.0001% of your audience, um, or whatever. What am I trying to say here? 2 million people isn't even 0.01 of the world, and etc. So you just try not to get in your head too much, and you also just try to remember like no one really cares. We're all just grains of sand. I don't know.
It's Andrew Hales wisdom right there.
Yeah,
I think that's well said, man. Like
yeah,
it's very it's because obviously I don't have the amount of followers that you have on social media, and I actually don't envy that. I would probably prefer not to have 2 million people, caring what I do.
yeah.
Um,
My
but
retention is terrible now. It's like maybe, I guess like it's like 20 to 30,000 people per video, so it's not too bad now.
but even then, if you think about it, I because I posed this same idea to another creator who was on this podcast. He's a travel vlogger. Um, you know, 20,000 or five figures people watching your videos. Like you can't fit that many people in a room. Like that's the population of of like a medium to small size city,
Yeah,
right? Like
I think
that many people are like
yeah,
watching.
I think it's about the size of a stadium, like a basketball stadium. Yeah,
Yes.
it's not too bad. Like it's still you can still
Yeah.
make a living from it, so that's good. It still prevents me from getting a real job just yet.
Yeah, I guess what I'm trying to convey here or communicate through the question that I'm going to ask here is just isn't that like do you still get a sense of those five figure amounts of people as people, or have you kind of become desensitized to just the fact that they might just be like another number, you know?
Yeah, you definitely don't. It doesn't really seem like that many people watch, and especially like back when I was getting like 500,000 views per video in the heyday of the pranks. it didn't even seem like that much because I don't know, it's the internet and it's just all so scattered and yeah, it definitely does just feel like a number for the most part.
Yeah. So the one last thing I want to ask you here, Andrew, is if you could go back and give yourself one piece of advice to yourself as you were starting this channel like 10 years ago,
Mm.
what would that be?
Uh, Um, Save money. I think I would have if I saved every penny I had from that I made from YouTube and I only lived in my parents the whole time and I never traveled or bought food or paid rent, I could probably retire and live off the interest. Well, barely. I would have about I think I would have close to $1 million. But I mean I also don't regret it because you know I it's all experience. You know, I went to Tokyo and Russia and Italy and London and Paris, and I had all these fun experiences. China and you know, living in LA for 5.5 years, you meet all these people and networking, and yeah, I still don't really have any regrets about it. And you can always just make more money. You can't buy back time. You know, time is more valuable than money. So
Yeah, man. I could I totally agree with that. Like time is a non-renewable resource, and at the same time, it's. I mean, I might go on a little bit of a rant here, though, that I don't think our generation was really educated enough in terms of how to manage our money. So, like, was there was I imagine there was like nobody saying, "Hey, you should with all that money you have, you should buy an index fund and just let it buy the S&P 500 index fund and let it sit and it'll grow over time."
right.
Like nobody taught our generation that. And now you're having, again referencing him, you got guys like Graham Stephan out there and other creators in the finance niche who are now like serving that purpose, I think, for people in our generation and younger because it didn't exist for us.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, I did have one financial literacy class in high school, but um, yeah, I think it's something more people should know. Um, it's yeah, it's hard to it's tricky because I feel like my debt is not the same as like a normal person's debt. Like I feel like I have more control over my like I if I just you know I make as much as I put into it. It's not like a desk job, and I can just you know I feel like I have more freedom to get ahead of credit cards and stuff like that because I've done this like 2 or 3 times, and then I eventually get out of it and get rich again. I don't know. It's just it's not the same as having a
Yeah.
normal job. It's just part of entrepreneurship, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean that's a good thing that you have that confidence to
Yeah.
do that, right? I feel like that's like the ultimate thing is like to be able to do it, have done it before and feel confident enough that you can get out of that hole. Like that's definitely commendable cuz I know some people it would be they would just be like terrified of getting in that hole in the first place and not necessarily believe that
Yeah.
they could dig themselves out of
I
it.
mean, yeah, if I had like a kid on the way or something, then I would be a lot more stressed out, but it's, you know, I just have me and Carly. We kind of always split everything down the middle so far. And so it's not too hard to I don't have too many obligations right now financially except for myself and you know, I've always told my dad like the pranks would always be there and so I kind of that's why I kind of started yeah, the Blu-ray too. I put out like last week and so and that's at like 90,000 views now and it's like all right, great. So I still got it, whatever and I'll just probably keep doing those for now and get out of debt. Yeah.
Yeah, man. I think those are timeless. That's timeless kinds of content. Because I mean, there was Candid Camera before YouTube, before Jackass.
Yeah.
Those kinds of like experiments. People will always be curious enough to click and gravitate towards it.
Yeah, it's kind of like whether they know me or not, it's still like kind of just interesting to look just to see how people react to some jackass asking them if they want to pop in a Blu-ray, you know?
Is there This will honestly be the vital question here because this has piqued my curiosity here, but is there anything that you have learned in particular like that's universal about human nature from doing all of those social experiments, prank videos throughout the years?
Um, People are a lot nicer than you think they are. It's all in your head. Like 99% of people are way nicer and strangers are just nice and sweet and not as like mean or whatever or rude like you think they'll be. And it's almost always in my head when I'm hesitant to do something or scared to approach people. That's always the answer I give to that question.
Thanks again to Andrew Hales for joining me on this edition of the Videocraft Show presented by Video Husky. Make sure to check out Andrew on YouTube. Again, the YouTube channel is LAHWF, LAHWF. And follow Andrew on Instagram as well. He is Mr. Hales 109 over there. And I've got a few quick things for all of you before you go. First of all, find the show notes for this episode and previous ones over at videocraftshow.com. And second, if you're a content creator that struggles to organize script your ideas, I've got a resource for you. Get a copy of our free script template. Using it can help you structure your videos, save you hours of time from filming in the process. To download it, all you have to do is just go to videocraftshow.com, or if you're watching on YouTube, find the link in the description below and just subscribe to our free email list. It'll get delivered straight to your inbox right after you sign up. And third, if you're enjoying the show, make sure to rate and review us on Apple Podcasts or wherever it is that you get your podcasts. We're always trying to make the show better for listeners and viewers like you. So leave feedback because whatever it is that you say, both good and bad, will help us improve, and we pay attention to it too. Finally, if you're watching the show on YouTube, make sure to hit the like button. Helps us with the YouTube algorithm, gets the show in front of more content creators just like you. And leave us a comment too, because I'm reading them. My producer Nikki is reading them. We are paying attention to anything and everything that you guys say about us, if anything, on the internet. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel as well. As always, got to shout out my team for helping me produce the show. Shouting out my producer Nikki Vicente, editors Rexa Stanislaw, Shara Texon, editor manager Chaco Rucan, and graphics by Paulo Lopez, as well as the rest of the crew over at Video Husky. And a quick reminder, if you do want to have your videos edited to look just like this, then visit videohusky.com to learn more. That's it for now. We'll see you next week on another episode of the Videocraft Show presented by Video Husky.